Oh, it's very, very complex because the series of Silent Hill, the games, are based on a very emotional approach of the storytelling. I mean, usually in a game, you have to face danger. You have to be a warrior. You have to be a hero. In Silent Hill, you can't be a hero. You stay until the end, somebody with very, very deep emotional feeling. And so in a way, it's very disturbing. A lot of people talk about why these games are so frightening. And they talk about the atmosphere, they talk about the colors, they talk about the creature. But I think that these games are very frightening because the characters are very emotional. And basically, they are very vulnerable. And you can't fight against the creature in the game. You can kill one or two creatures, but quickly you have to run. And that's one of the secrets of the success of this series, is that basically the creator of the series decide that the gamer has to stay a human being and not try to be like an idealistic vision of himself or herself. So that's a very important point. And so when you're playing to the game, your feelings are very confusing, very disturbing, and constantly you try to see where is the line between good and evil, where is the line between making something good and making something ugly. And the loneliness of your character through the adventure, because most part of the time you're completely alone in the fog and in the dark, make that you're very, very vulnerable in terms of moral perspective, according what you have to do in the game. I mean, every gamer will understand what I say when, for example, I will talk about in the first game when you have to kill Sybil. That's an horrific moment. That's certainly one of the most horrific moments in a gamer life. The moment where you have basically to kill the only character who can help you, because you have to do that. And it's why the game is, for me, a very pervert experience, because constantly you have to define yourself through action that sometimes you don't want to do. Or most part of the time, all the game are about things that you want to do, that you would love to do if you were a hero. In Silent Hill, you're forced to do some action that just make you feel very alone and very disturbed. And it's a very mature way to approach game, I think. I think that, for me, that's maybe the first game that we can say it was mature. It was conceptualized in a very mature way. There is no other game like Silent Hill. You know, it's great because as a director, I have adapted a comic book, I have adapted a script, but I never adapted before a game. And I realized when I was doing that it was completely different. When you're reading a book, you figure what can be the color, what can be the shape of the thing that as described in the book. But when you're adapting a game, you're adapting something that actually you have lived for real. It's like going in a different country. It's like going to Pakistan, coming back and say, I want to tell a story about my trip in Pakistan. That's exactly the same thing with game, and especially with a game like Silent Hill. When I was adapting this game, it was like, I had the feeling that I have to tell to the people what was exactly my feeling and my adventure when I was in Silent Hill, when I spent so many hours in the night playing to Silent Hill. It was like a foreign country. Oh, I'm going to tell you how it's to be in Silent Hill. So it's a very, very interesting thing. It's why it becomes also very personal as a process. You know, you can't adapt a game just because you have to adapt a game. It's not adapting a game is not like adapting a comic book. You know, it's completely different because you have the feeling to have been there. You know, and bring back some truth about what was the experience to face that adventure. So it's, I would say that it's almost like a self-biography, adapting a game, a good game, of course. No, no, of course not. You know, when we are dealing with bad games, of course you have to play the game to enjoy an adaptation. But I think that Silent Hill, like all the great creation, expand the boundaries of its medium. I mean, Silent Hill is not only a game. For me, it's a piece of modern art. It's not only a game. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's something frightening, it's something disturbing, but it's something very beautiful. And no, I think that yeah, Silent Hill is a very, very complex thing. I think that Silent Hill, because it's a modern art piece, you have to be aware not only about games, but also about painting, filmmaking, writing. I mean, like every important piece of art, it covers many medium. You know, when you're looking at a movie by David Lynch, I admire David Lynch, you have the feeling to see a movie which also has a beautiful pictorial strength, but also a very beautiful writing quality. And of course, the music is also important. I mean, that in complete piece of art, you know, you're covering many medium. And I have the feeling that the game of Silent Hill is all about music, writing, aesthetic, photographic feeling. You know, it's everything in one piece. So yes, when I have to adapt Silent Hill, you know, I watch some work of some painter like Francis Bacon. I'm watching again the photography of Belmer. I'm watching some movie from East Europe, or very old film like the one by Luis Buñuel. I mean, it's everything which can help you to have this surrealistic perception, you know, is important. You see what I mean? I mean, it's not like, okay, I'm going to take a piece of that, a piece of that, a piece of that. You know, adapting Silent Hill is a matter of sensitivity. And if you want that sensitivity be completely aware, you have to watch again the work of some painters, the work of some director, the work of some, you know, writers, just to make your sensitivity at the right level to make that kind of adaptation possible. You know, I don't think that you can simply take pieces everywhere. We are not dealing with a game which is like a B movie. I mean, like you know, a puzzle of different influence. You know, Silent Hill exists by itself. It has no equivalent. So you have to be in the right mood to do it. Oh, I think it's a question that I'm going to hear a lot. In fact, what happened is that because we wanted to adapt the first game, it was obvious for us, I mean, for me and my co-writers, that the hero will be Harry Mason, and the hero of the first game. And when we start to write him, respecting his personality, we found that he was talking like a woman. You know, this guy, and he worked very well in the game, but when you try to transpose him as a real character, it's a woman. And for me, there was two options. Or I was transforming completely the guy and accept his name, or I was trying to keep the psychological atmosphere of the character, and I was making him a woman. And we decided to make him a woman. I think that because Silent Hill is a very beautiful creation, I don't think that it's important if the main character is wearing a dress or a pants. What is important is that he has a very specific quality into his or her feeling, and it has a specific mood. And we thought that the fan will understand very well that, because we'll preserve the atmosphere of the game, which is the most important thing. You know, as a gamer, as a fan of Silent Hill, that's for me the real thing to preserve, the atmosphere. And I don't care if the character is a man or a girl, if the atmosphere is there. And you know, it's a very important point, but what can work into a medium, not necessarily work into another medium. I mean that game is game, movie is movie. And sometimes in a game, just a little ambiguity is enough to make a character very realistic. Not in a film. In a film, you have to create what they call a psychological arc. You have to take the character and make him, you know, evolving through scenes. And it's true that for us, when we have adapted Silent Hill, what was important is adapt the mythology and the atmosphere of the game, but we try to make the character more complex than in the game. But keeping in mind that each of these characters has a special mood and was bringing a special quality to the atmosphere of the game. So I think that the gamer will be happy to find that Sybil Bennett is in the film, that Dahlia Gillespie is in the film, Alyssa Gillespie is in the film, but they will find also that this character have evolved, you know. Also because a movie has to expand the psychological vision of each character, you know. If not, we'll have to make something which will look very cardboard, you know. And I think it will be not a great thing to do with Silent Hill, you know. So the best thing that I have to do was to transpose as much as possible the character of Silent Hill and making them in flesh and blood. And no more like just a nice icon of CG imagery, something in flesh and blood. There is so many monsters, so many creatures with an interesting design in the game. It was like, oh, it's like opening the library queue of Akira. So many beautiful things here. And when you open the zoo of Silent Hill, so many beautiful creations, so many amazing creatures. And in fact, because I'm a gamer, an early gamer, I wanted to give my homage to the creature of the first one and the second one. I love the creature of the third one, and some of the creature of the fourth one are amazing. But sentimentally, you know, it was impossible for me to don't have in my film the armless creature, I mean Straight Jacket, the nurses, or Red Pyramid Head. And it was impossible. I could not imagine Silent Hill without this creature, for example. And so that's some of the creatures that you will see in the film, some of them. There is more. But yeah, I think that every fan also, it's like the music. Every fan can't imagine a film inspired by Silent Hill without the nurses or without Red Pyramid. I mean, it's impossible. You know, they are so amazing. And in fact, we love this monster. Because every fan knows that the monster in Silent Hill are not the most monstrous things in Silent Hill. The monster in Silent Hill sometimes are pathetic and strangely human. The real monster in Silent Hill are human beings. And that's one of the reasons it was important to keep this monster. Because they constantly recall us that the real monstrosity is not apparent. The real monstrosity, and that's one of the messages of the film, is in the mind of human being. And this monster have also that use. It's a very important use to understand the world of Silent Hill. It's difficult, you know, because there is so many amazing moments that I have spent in these games. But let's say that the death of Sybil on the merry-go-round in the first one, It was amazing. Um, of course, the first time you met Red Pyramid in the dark in the second one, and of course the climax of the second one is amazing, and when you realize the truth about your relationship with your wife, I mean, it's unforgettable. And actually, it's funny because these two moments make me cry. So that's one of the reasons I like to think that it was important to adapt this game. It's because it's not only about fear, it's about emotion. And these two very moments that I have, remembering, actually made me cry. That's important. There is not so many games that make you cry, with your joystick in the hands. It's very rare. It's unique.